Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Today, I read a really sad piece of news related to boxing. Okay. And I don't know how many people will share this view or whether they'll care. But to me, this was, like I say, it was a tremendously sad bit of news. And that is that Boxing News, which has been a weekly boxing publication since 1909, will in 2026 cease to be a weekly publication and will instead be reborn, revamped into a monthly publication. Now, you might be saying, well, who gives a fuck? I mean, younger people probably don't buy boxing papers. They probably read everything on the internet, or they watch YouTube videos and interviews and so on. Okay, I get it. The world is changing, and we all have to, whether we like it or not, change with it. I don't dispute that at all. But it is sad that for those of us who have bought Boxing News, I mean, I've bought it for 40 years at least, to see it suddenly cease to be weekly and to become a monthly publication, yeah, it does bug me. I was really shocked and sad when I read this. I read it in in today's Boxing News, which I get every week. It's going to be sad not having that weekly thing there. Now, inevitably, the rise of the internet is, if not the major factor in this, but certainly a major factor. But in all honesty, I mean, Boxing News as a what's the word I'm looking for? As a brand, I suppose is the word I would use. It does have 5.5 million followers on its website, so it does show that it is still a respected name on brand, if you like. But the print, as opposed to the digital version of it's obviously suffered, as all publications have. I mean, for example, the Sun newspaper used to sell 3 to 3.5 million copies a day. 3.5 million copies a day. And now it sells a fraction of that. Same with all newspapers. I'm just using that as an example. Same with all magazines. They just don't sell as many now because everything's digitalized. I mean, I still buy CDs because I like having a physical copy. I still buy DVDs of films. I think there is a lot to be said for having a physical copy of a piece of art. Not least of all because those fuckers are going to start editing stuff out and trying to rewrite history and censoring stuff because of some damn fool thing finds a certain word, phrase, or image offensive. So get it while you can. Get the originals while you can. Keep them there. Get a hard copy. Don't rely on these the sort of moral vanguard to start dictating to you what you shouldn't be watching. But yes, it is great to have a hard copy of a magazine. I've still got my Boxing News going, like I say, going back about 40 years. I did sell quite a few over the last 20 years, probably because of the digitalized version of it. I mean, when I was a kid, Boxing News, certainly, well, Boxing Monthly came along in 1989 and finished, what was it? I can't remember when it finished, but anyway. And certainly some of the American ones, not least of all The Ring, or, very, very different magazine to what it is nowadays. This was before De La Hoya and Golden Boy bought it, never mind Turkey Yellow Shake's revamping of it. But these magazines were important, and certainly certain books, like the British Boxing Board of Control's yearbook, was vital long before the internet, because you could read the history of the fighters, you could read their records. You had incredibly high standard of journalism. Harry Mullen, was a personal favourite of mine. He was the editor of Boxing News for many years. Hugh McIlvanney was fantastic. I mean, this was beautiful, poetic prose that drew you in, because, of course, there was no internet, there was obviously no YouTube. There was I predate VHS tapes, never mind fucking DVDs and stuff. So classic fights. If you read a beautiful bit of prose about, I don't know, the Rumble in the Jungle or Thriller in Manila, you thought, fuck me, I've got to see this fight. And then, of course, when VHS tapes come along, and they used to have little ads in the back of Boxing News and Boxing Monthly, people selling these, grainy, very often grainy tapes of fights from way back. I mean, certainly, I remember having a lot of VHS tapes from the 70s, the lighter weight fighters, Bazooka Lemon, Bobby Chacon, Danny Lopez, and all that lot, Boza Edwards. I loved that round robin that they did, where they fought 2, 3, 4 times against each other, and I had them all on VHS tape. I loved those. I loved them. This was but certainly pre-internet. And Boxing News was a major way of drawing you into the sport and educating you about the history of it, and the lineage of how it evolved, going back from the pioneers all the way up to the modern day. And I think a lot of that has been lost, because now boxing news per se is really a lot of YouTubers sticking microphones in the faces of fighters and asking them the same, often very mundane questions. In my opinion, there's a lot less education that goes on, not just with the history of boxing, which is very, absolutely fascinating to delve into, but also with educating you as to what you're watching, because lots of people, I meet a lot of people who are genuine fans of boxing, and they love it. And when they watch a fight, they I don't mean to sound superior, but a lot of them don't seem to know what they're looking at. Do you know what I mean? And having said that, of course, sometimes I'll talk to people and they'll point things out that I've missed. So I don't want to sound like I'm, Billy Big Bollocks, but I do feel that I was, I had the privilege of being educated through certain platforms like Boxing News, certain brilliant boxing writers. The old timers. Ron Olver was one who used to write about the old timers. Eric Armitt used to write about the old timers. It's fascinating. It's like going back in history, like traveling in time back to read about the exploits of Jack Kidd Berg, or I don't fucking know, Howard Winstone, or something. You were like, fucking hell, man, this is great. Ted Kid Lewis was another one. Jimmy Wild. I learnt about these people, the legend behind them, and the reality that sometimes didn't fit in with the legend. That to me was real boxing education. And I think it's terribly sad that Boxing News is going to become a monthly publication rather than a weekly one. Now, it will actually be called Boxing News Monthly when it's released in 2026. And the reason for this is that in 2023, Boxing News bought the rights. And when the rights, I mean, really they're talking about the archive of Boxing Monthly, which, like I say, it's been out of print for some years now. It started in 1989, ran for, I don't even know how long it ran for. It was quite a fair old, it must have been about 35 years, I suppose. I remember it being released, because I'm that old, and I remember the first copy, which I had, and I've got the final copy. And the kingpin of Boxing Monthly was a guy called Glyn Leach, who was absolutely terrific, a very, very, very good journalist indeed. Really knew his boxing, and was kind of he's a good guy. He was very, very well respected as well. Now that Boxing News bought Boxing Monthly's archives, and they bought the rights to the name and the image and everything. The brand, again, the brand, I suppose you'd call it. Hence the reason that they're going to sort of revamp it now and call it Boxing News Monthly. So in a sense, it's going to be 2 pieces of boxing journalistic history under one umbrella. They're going to bring back Boxing Monthly and put it alongside Boxing News to make a monthly publication. Now, I have no doubt this will be, a brilliant publication, because even today there are some terrific journalists writing for Boxing News. The standard of journalism has been consistently brilliant over the 4 or 5 decades that I've run. Must be about 40, 45 years I've been buying Boxing News. It's been, I can't think of an era when there's been a visible dip. So I've no doubt that this new magazine will be the dogs down belows. But it is sad that it's no longer going to be a weekly publication, because for as long as I can remember, since I was a kid, Thursday, Boxing News Day, without question. Even when I was living in America for years, my old mum, God bless her, used to send me Boxing News, along with a few pear drops and cola cubes and maybe a few film magazines. It was a regular for me. It was just wonderful. It really was wonderful. But I guess all things must pass, all things must change, and the brand name at least is still alive, which is great. Long may it continue to be, because 1909, long old time ago, isn't it? Long old time ago, but still going. Anyway, I just thought I'd give you my opinion on that. If you're one of the older boxing fans, you probably have an opinion on it. If you're a younger person, you may go, Boxing News, what's that? I've never bought a copy. That's probably why it's becoming monthly instead of weekly. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you've got any opinions, leave them below. Thanks a lot for watching the vid. And subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, do all that good stuff I always talk about, and spread the word about Joe's Son of Boxing. Thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen. Bye for now.